So, episode 2. So, playing with my father was great fun, but providing music for dancers wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. This only lasted for a little while. It was the Christmas period, and I stepped in for my father. All I know is that my job, which was awful, I was a civil servant looking at books that made no sense to me. 15-year-old kid looking after some military stuff. I get a piece of paper saying we need 2 tanks. So I said, well, we'll send them by parcel post. It seemed to make sense to me. Anyway, I was getting the princely sum of about $10 a week, £6.5 a week. And if I did one little silly gig with my dad on a Saturday night, I got £3.5. I earned more in that 3 hours on a Saturday night than I did for 3 days at work. And I had a bit of fun. I was treated like a grown-up for a little while. But I remember nothing about the music, of course. It was what it was. The 2 things that stand out were not really about the music. One night we had a particularly slow night, and nobody was leaving the dining room, and we were just playing and playing away to nobody. And my dad was getting a bit cheesed off with this. So he said, son, take a solo, which was an excuse for him to nip off to the bar and get a drink. So I did, anyway. 15-year-old kid with the world there in front of him, and I started flapping around the kit. Well, unbeknownst to me, a couple had come in from the dining room and were so happily in their cups, they didn't realize they weren't dancing to a song or a piece of music. They were dancing to a 15-year-old drum solo. And as things progress, drum solos get faster and faster. And these 2 glorious people were trying to keep up and being Fred and Ginger around the ballroom. And it was getting faster and faster and more out of control, and so were they. And alongside the ballroom, they'd laid a little buffet there with chips, some peanuts and some sherry and bits and pieces. Anyway, you can see what was going to happen. These guys are pirouetting around the room like this, getting more and more out of control. And they went straight into the buffet and straight over the top of it. Anyway, I heard the shrieks of laughter from the other 2 guys, my dad and the other guy in the band. And I stopped playing and looked round. And they're holding their sides with laughter there. But their laughter was totally drowned out by these 2 people with just 2 pairs of legs stuck up in the air by the buffet. My dad was asked never to bring me back again. And so that was the end of that. The other one was about a New Year's Eve. People would come up and request songs for them to dance, for themselves to dance to. And every time Dad did one of the requests, they'd bring him a drink. And it was usually a scotch, and if they were feeling very generous, it'd be a double scotch. So of course, by the end of the night, he really couldn't stand up. Never mind find the car or drive it. So there's me, 15 years old, 1 driving lesson on a private road. I have to get us home. It's only 5 miles. But when you're that age and you really don't know how to drive, that's a bit daunting. We had this big old Mark II Ford Zodiac. In Britain, that was a huge car. Huge, huge, huge. I'm not a big guy now, but 15 years old, I was pretty tiny. And I could just about see over the steering wheel, and I could just about reach the pedals to change the gear. But it had to be done. Anyway, we got home safe and sound. But of those 5 miles, I reckon 3 miles were driven along the verge and in the fields, and probably 2 miles on the tarmac. Anyway, that was that, and that was the end of it. End of the period. Dad's drummer came back, and I started to find kids who wanted to do our generation's music. I lived in a small town. It wasn't hard to find each other. And I'll go into that the next time I talk to you. Cheers.